The power of the name. This place exists on the fringes of the physical world and the hereafter. Its powerful energy unlocks the secrets of destiny, unraveling a myriad of delicate and intricately woven threads. Each element of the sacred formula has a lot to offer. Each element has the power to take it all away. The book of the past, the power of the present, the code of the future. For each and every nation, their name, their cloths, their native language will forever remain their sanctuary. Chapter 1. First, there was a name. In 55 BC, the powerful state of Hunnu split into two parts, the north and the south. A man called Gigi became the ruler of the north, a haughty and undiplomatic person who quarreled with all his neighbors. The Chinese seemed to cause him great distress, and so did the Usuns. And of course there was also the southern neighbor. His prospects would indeed have been bleak if he had not received an offer from the ruler of the state of Kanggu, who invited him to the Taraz valley. However, some time later Gigi had a falling out with Kanggu's ruler as well. The reason of the conflict remains a mystery, although Gigi is known to have travelled to the upper part of the Talas River and begun the construction of a new city there. This is how the first name originated. Tanirkut or Tengrikut means the Divine One, blessed by heaven. The ruler of the Huns bore the title of Gigi and was also known as Tezek. He erected high towers along the bank of Talas River and fenced the area with a shaft. This is where he founded a big new city. From a distance, one could see the multicolored flags of Tanirkut city swaying majestically in the wind. Several hundred armed militia squads are standing on guard on the towers of the mount. Another several hundred horsemen are galloping briskly around the rampart. At the main gate of the fortress city, one can see a formation of several hundred infantrymen engaged in the training session. Centurions, manipules, principes and hastati residing on the shores of Talas River were the ones who taught volatile nomadic armies the art of Roman battle tactics. According to famous Orientalist Lev Gumilov, Chinese intelligence reports on Gigi's activity contained information about the ruler's long-cherished plans to conquer the Uyezhi and the Parthians. And even though the Uyezhi and the Parthians were enemies, Gigi always had the option of taking one of these states as an ally. Apparently, he eventually befriended the Parthians and received from them assistance, including one centurion of Roman legionaries who helped the ruler build a fortified camp. They built a whole city here. It happened 2,100 years ago. The Italian capital is more than 6,000 miles away, and yet it is very close. From Jambil Avenue to Ulugh Street, along the university lies the line of Rome. Just a couple of years ago, the street was renamed. The old labels still linger here and there, as the city administration has yet to replace them. And here it is, 60 Rome Street. As fate would have it, the descendants of Romulus found themselves in the steppes of Kazakhstan, and this is where they made history. Having your picture taken with a legionnaire costs 5 euros. At first he asked for 10 euros, and now he's only asking for 5. And there is nothing surprising about that. It is no secret that legionnaires have always been a venal sort, in the sense that they were used to earning a living by selling themselves, selling their power and military force to different countries or rulers. Mark Crassus, the man responsible for the brutal suppression of the Spartans' revolt, had always wanted to conquer the mysterious East, but in the battle with the Parthians he lost his beloved son and his own life, while his army, 40,000 men, was reduced by half. The 100 centurion warriors that arrived as a gift for Tezek were very lucky indeed. Instead of being subjected to humiliating slavery, they were offered garrison duty. These famous captive Romans, who had once been a part of Mark Crassus' army, were sent here to guard the western border. 50 BC. The recently constructed bastion walls are somewhat similar to the military settlement on the banks of the Tiber. However, the unsteady fire of the burning torches is reflected in the cold waters of Talas. Imagine a parade here on the banks of the Talas. Perhaps there are a lot of torches. There are many people who have come out to see the newlywed bride off to the house of her new husband. Of course, people are rejoicing and shouting, and the actual words that they were chanting were Talasio, Talasio. They mean pretty much the same as our Russian Gorka. The cry is a customary way of congratulating the newlywed couple. The word did not just pop out of nowhere. It is repeated in honor of Taraz, the god of marriage. Carthaginian man Sextus Sulla, a highly educated person, told me that that cry had been appointed by Romulus as a signal of abduction. The man who was stealing women used to shout "Talasi." This custom has thus remained a part of the wedding ritual. Famous painting The Rape of the Sabine Women by Giovanni Battista Tiepolo, property of the State Hermitage Museum. This is how it all started. On the streets of the Sabine city, Curie, Roman soldiers can be seen grabbing young unmarried women. The brutality of it infuriated the locals. In the end, they managed to reach a compromise with the Romans. The parties agreed that the abducted women did not have to do anything for their husbands except talasia. Translated from Latin, the word means the ability to spin cloth. Even Emperor Augustus made sure his daughters could work the spindle at least as well as their slaves. A woman was required to know how to sew clothes, plain and simple. She had to be able to dress her family. Apparently, Roman wedding traditions did not take in the new city. Perhaps the city got its new name in honor of the ancient cry, Talasio. The name of the Talas River originated from this exclamation according to one of the theories. The age-old wedding cry in the name of a river Talasio translates from Latin as wool being spun. It might also be an adapted version of the Chinese Tolosi Tolsie. In this complicated story, only one thing is for certain. Fate chose to spin the strands of Tiber and Talas into one cloth. Chapter 2. Name or Destiny. The fate of the city and that of its founder have been inextricably linked since the beginning. However, both Tenyerkut and its namesake were doomed. The combative but short-sighted Tezek was killed by the Chinese, and the capital was burned to the ground and destroyed. Not a single reminder of the obstinate Hun was spared. In 36 BC, the city was given a new name and a new destiny. One of the main characteristics of Taraz is the fact that it has never lost its native dwellers. Whenever the city was destroyed or completely wiped off the face of the earth, it was always Tarazians, the city's native residents, who rebuilt it from ruins. Another version suggests that the surviving Tenyerkut dwellers became Tarazians because the river was called Talas and not as a result of the Roman marriage tradition. The city is referred to as Tolosa, in the earliest written document dating as far back as 568 AD. In later documents, the name varies from Talosi to Talosia and Dalosi. At the western end of the river, there is a town called Dalosi, where the formidable fortress of Chigo stands. In the 10th year, the Tianbao troops of Cao Xin-chi attacked and defeated it. There is yet another theory about the origin of the name. This version is also closely associated with the founders of the city. Talac means captive, hostage in modern Serbian or Eurasian language. The word has retained its original meaning and is still used in this sense. However, this name is mentioned in one form or another in many dictionaries, and strangely enough, the definition matches the city's history quite perfectly. For example, there's a similar sounding word in Romanian language, Talaz, which means rampart, a defensive construction which has always surrounded the fortresses of the city. There is one more version. It is a fact that Talas means dispute in Turkic. According to one legend, this area was once home to two tribes who couldn't share the territory amongst themselves. In the end, they agreed to let the border lie along the waterbed of Talas River. The legend is based on actual facts. A long time ago, this area was indeed inhabited by two tribes, Karluks and Uysuns. When Turkic tribes arrived and settled here, they found Taraz much easier to pronounce than Talas. It has always remained in the thick of things. Today, the name of the street honors Tolebi, but in ancient times, the Great Silk Road used to pass through here. It was a regular, well-trodden path. They used to plant drought-tolerant trees on both sides of the trail to give the road a clear definition. The bazaar. This is where all of the city's roads used to lead. Here you could buy anything your heart desired. Here you could also rest before a long journey. Caravans from around the world came here. How long would it take approximately? 15 or 16? Would I be able to pick it up? No. the name that brought with it lasting happiness and solid wealth. Incidentally, one of its variations is an Arab word Taraz, which literally means decorated, embroidered, colored. The word was used to describe embroidered fabric, often silk, which was adorned with ornaments or short sayings from the Quran. Arabic, Chinese and other historians define the city as the western border of the Islamic world. It wasn't until 751 AD that the infamous Battle of Taraz took place. The Arabs ended up defeating and banishing all representatives of the Sin dynasty, thus bringing here Islamic culture and Islamic religion.
Привезли сюда, вернее, исламскую культуру и исламскую религию.
Taraz has always attracted worldwide attention, regardless of the name it bore at the time. Little by little, the scales of the city, Taraz means scales in Turkic, began to tip in the other direction. Chapter 3. The New Taraz. Taraz is a river on the other side of the town called Yassi. It takes over 1 month to cover the distance between them. The people who live in that area call it Talash. It was whispered that there were ruins of some city buried in the ground nearby, outstretching for about 5 farsakhs. Apparently, this city is Taraz. This is what modern historians write about it. Yani or Yangi is what the new city used to be called before it was conquered by Taraz. 13th century AD, the city has been destroyed once again either by the Shah of Khorazm to prevent the Mongols from getting their hands on it or by Genghis Khan. However, the remains of the fires discovered by archaeologists can be attributed to either version in equal measure. It is also possible that both versions are accurate. For some time after that, the city existed under a new name, but by the early 16th century it had completely vanished from all geographical maps of that time. The location of Taraz was discovered by historian Barthold. He was conducting excavations based on the Arab data suggesting that there used to be a city on the right bank of Talas River. A small settlement remained. At various times, the area was part of the Chagatai Ulus of the Mongol Empire. Before the Jungarian invasion, the city belonged to the Kazakh Khanate, and afterwards it was passed to the Kokhans. The city had no choice other than to turn a new leaf every time. The river gave it to the will to win, and by the way, that is exactly what the word Taraz means in Sanskrit. And in the 19th century, the Holy Father emerged on the site of the destroyed Yani. In 1864, the city was renamed in honor of Saint Karahan, Auliyata. The name remained unchanged until the 1930s. In the decades that followed, the city changed names several times. At various times it was called Mirzayan and Jambul after Jambul Jabaev. Jambul, Auliyata, Yani, Taraz, Dalosi, Hinlos, Tamirkut, the multilingual and multifaceted Taraz, the city of merchants and bazaars, a warm and cozy place with all the benefits of civilization, ranging from spacious bathrooms to camel stalls. Nothing has changed since then, except that parking spaces have replaced the camel stands. The scales of Taraz appear to have frozen. In fact, the word balance is also derived from the same root. The quiet and tranquil life of Taraz, even time seems to flow differently here. And if you think about it, time has little power over the city. 2,000 years ago, people used to walk these streets just like they do today, rushing to work, raising children, and buying flowers for their loved ones. Nothing has really changed. Barefoot Romans are chasing a football, venerable Roman women are peeking from behind the gate. A mobile kvass barrel abandons its station at the entrance and heads to the market, leaving its neighbor and era companion, the soda machine, quite alone. The sun begins its unhurried descent to Tekturmas. The quiet flow of Taraz is the flow of time, the flow of fate. Nomen est omen, ancient Romans used to say. Name is destiny.